Welcome back to Welsh Miniature Ball Gamer, and today's video is going to be me painting up a toy spaceship. So yeah, about a year ago, maybe 6 months ago, there was lots of videos online of people taking toy spaceships and turning them into terrain, mainly from the Buzz Lightyear franchise, if you will. Now, they worked really well, I think, especially because we don't recognize those spaceships. They don't belong to any particular franchise that is successful anyway. Like, say, an X-Wing, if you put that in your game, you automatically think of it as a Star Wars game. Or if you take I don't know, a Enterprise style landing craft, you automatically think of Star Trek. So I think that's why these toys really took off for people doing conversions of them, because we don't instantly recognize them as belonging to a franchise. We can use them in our games as sort of unidentified spaceship, or a craft which hasn't got any history really attached in our brain to these toys. Now, converting toys for scenery, etc., is no new thing. It's been around as long as our hobby has been around. You can look back in some of the old White Dwarfs and you'll see them, smashing up toys and making things. So, it's been around for an awfully long time. So, like many ideas, I locked them away in my dim, dark vault of a brain. Yeah, I did just call my brain dim and dark. And forgot about it for months and months. And then Peachy Tips put up a video of him painting up one of the Buzz Lightyear toys. And it was a really good video, and it really lit the spark under me that, I could do this too. So, I decided that I would go ahead and try and find these toys. So one of the main reasons why we'd use toys instead of buying sort of branded wargames ships is value, cost, etc. So I bought a collection of free spaceships on eBay, used, played with, etc. So might be a few parts missing, but it doesn't really matter to us, because even if it was broken, we could use it as crashed spacecrafts, etc. So it kind of wouldn't matter. But I got these free. I will put a picture up now. And that was for, look at my little notes, that was for £16.64. So, that was a really good price for free ships. When you sort of compare it to a Rhino, a GW Rhino now costs £35 for one model. So that's just for like a little tank thing. A Lehman Russ, £42. And a Valkyrie, which would be similar size, I would say, to the one I'm deciding to paint today, £57. And I got all three of these for £16. So if we go over to, say, Mantic, which is much more reasonable prices to pay, the Enforcer Interceptor is £32, which is a really good price, and the GCPS Hornet Dropship is £30, which is a really nice model, and I will think about buying that one day. But the thing is I don't paint spaceships or vehicles, etc. So I'm not really that confident with it. So if I did buy, say, a £40 model, I would feel very uncomfortable about painting it, and I would probably put it off and probably wouldn't bother. Now, I paid £16 for these. I don't really care if I mess them up. And chances are they're going to be okay. But that sort of fear of messing up a dear, expensive kit is kind of pushed aside when you've got toys, and you're kind of like, it doesn't really matter, they're only toys, it's not going to matter. So yeah, that was my mind going into it. I don't paint spaceships very often. I don't paint vehicles almost ever. So, this is kind of me just having a go and seeing what I can do. So let's get on and see how it turned out. So this is the vehicle that I've decided to paint up. I'm not sure if it's a goodie or a baddie thing. I'm guessing that it's a baddie thing, judging by the colour of it. I've never actually seen the Buzz Lightyear cartoon, although my daughters have, and they were not overly infused by it. But, this is what it looks like. And yeah, it's purple, which is an unusual colour, but I guess it shows that it's an evil creature. This sort of 28mm miniature next to it kind of shows that its size, and yeah, it looks like it could actually be a pretty decent size. It's got a little cockpit with a little dude in it. I'll take the little dude out because yeah, he's not going to be in there. The cockpit maybe would be a bit big for a standard 28mm, but we can sort of work around that a bit. So it's got some shooty lasers, so we'll shoot them off because we don't really want to have them on board our painted ship because it might shoot off and kill our miniatures, which would never be a good thing. So yeah, I like the shape. This actually is, I think, the same model or same toy as Peachy Tips used in his video. So yeah, it's a good place for me to start because then I can sort of look at his and think, what do I want to do with mine? So I took it outside and gave it a spray with Army Painter Greys, Ash Grey, that's the one, which give it a nice sort of dullish grey pale colour, and then I give it a coat sort of from above with white. After that, I've come in with my paintbrush and I've carefully drawn out the panel lines, which is fairly easy. And you know, you're gonna make a bit of mistakes here. Well, I did. I got paint everywhere, but you know, you can clean it up again after you've done that. Then I come back in and I've painted up these panels in this one of my favourite colours actually, the Vallejo model colour pale blue, and it kind of fits in with some other, you know, sort of things that I use, because as I always say, I use pale blue an awful lot. So going through the panel lines, it takes forever, and I kind of understand why I don't paint vehicles now. I haven't got an airbrush, which I'm sure would make things an awful lot easier, but I don't own one. This is the reason, one of the reasons why I don't paint vehicles, is I feel like I'm going to blotch it up, it's going to look awful and all. But you know, take my time, paint in all these panel lines with a black, and yeah, it's really starting to pop. You can see the difference this side compared to the other side, how much the panels pop with some black liner. So yeah, that works, and yeah, I think I'm quite pleased with it at this point, though whether I'll be pleased with it at the end is another thing. So now I have finished most of the panel lining on this side of the vessel anyway, and yeah, the front of that part is going to be the canopy, and then I'm going in and painting a few panels that this pale blue colour that I want. Now this is showing you how I'm painting the panel lines, which yeah, that is quite tricky for me. I haven't got the steadiest hands, so it's quite problematic. But if you take your time, have your paint watery enough that it will sort of run into the lines or come off the brush easier, that will help. You know, if your paintbrush is too dry, the paint will cling to the brush and not want to get off. So you have to kind of make sure that you're watered down enough the paint. And of course, if you make a mistake, use your thumb quickly. If your thumb is wet, it will wipe away, you know, anything that you've messed up, especially because these are in the recesses, so hopefully then you won't rub out what you've done. So it's just a matter of time, which, to be honest, I find it quite tedious painting these panel lines, but you know, that's part of the thing. I have to do it, and I know I have to do it, so I take my time and just try not to make too much of a mess of it. So the other option is I've got this 0.5 nib on this pen, and it's quite an inky pen. It would be better if I had a fibre pen, you know, one of those ones with like a fibrous nib, but this one actually is a roller point pen, which is not ideal, but as you can see, as I draw here, it does leave quite a line. It's a bit messier, maybe because it's so much quicker. I do make a bit more of a mess with it, but it's so much quicker that it's probably best for me to make a bit of a mess and clean it up afterwards. So at this point I'm quite happy with it, and it comes to a point where I need to put some colour, more colour into it. I'm not sure whether I want to do some weathering on it or not. It's kind of too plain without weathering, but I'm afraid I don't want it to look too dark or too grungy. You know, I want it to look like this spaceship has been looked after, not like, you know, it's gonna fall apart, etc. So I'm really unsure where to go with that, but I need to add a bit of colour to this thing anyway, so that's where I start using model colour red from Vallejo to give it some accents of, you know, some panels, so it makes it look like this vehicle has some sort of heraldry or whatever, you know, to it. It's not just plain grey and light blue spaceship. It has got some sort of group affinity, etc. So with that, it's kind of done. After adding my red, etc., at various panels, as you can see, it kind of makes it stand out more from just the pale blue and ash grey, you know, which would have been a bit too much of the same colours, you know. So with the red, it makes it pop, makes it feel more like, you know, there's some story behind why it's got this red paint, etc. Maybe it's just a maker's colour or something, you know, or maybe it belongs to a certain faction. Who knows? But, you know, at least it makes it look more, I don't know, I was going to say realistic, but this is a spaceship, so it's unlikely to be realistic. But more sort of Infinity-like, I reckon. And as you can see, you can't tell it's a toy anymore. It looks like it's a piece of terrain or a vehicle for a game. Yes, if you need specific vehicles to play your game, obviously this isn't going to work. But for, you know, miniatures agnostic games, this is going to work perfectly. And I play those type of games, so this is really perfect for me. Now, I did do a little bit of like weathering around the back ports of the engines, etc. I didn't go too far because I don't really want to mess it up after I've got this far, and I'm quite happy with it. It took me about 4 days to paint this, which I know it seems crazy that it took me that long to paint so few colours, but you know, that's how long it takes. I probably will have to do a gloss varnish on the canopy, the black part, but that would be something I can do later. So here are some stills of what this thing looks like all painted up, and as we go on you will see it actually tied in with my Mantic Enforcers army, which I was completely unaware that it would have, because I don't actually play any army games. I play Dead Zone, so I've been painting up the Enforcers, but it actually subconsciously I painted it the same colours as my Enforcers, so as you can see now they actually fit in just about perfectly with them, which, yeah, that is amazing, and a nice coincidence actually, which I didn't plan. That I did this, you know, painting up a toy took away that sort of worry that I was going to screw things up and I was going to mess up like a 40 quid model or whatever. Because it's a toy, I didn't have those inherent fears of messing it up. If it was rubbish, I could respray it and I could paint it again, or I could even chuck it if it was really an awful paint job. But it turned out okay, and I'm quite happy with it. I'm not a vehicle painter. I know I'm not that, and I'm quite happy with these. So that is something anyway. So, you know, do the usual YouTube things, you know, like, subscribe, comment. I do reply to every single comment. But until next time, I'm going to wish you the very best. Goodbye from Welsh Miniature Board Gamer.